Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. I have just witnessed Jannik Sinner win his first Grand Slam, coming back from 2-0 against Daniil Medvedev. Heart goes out to Daniil. He really put everything on the line. Probably has no regrets after that performance, but it's obviously sad for him and his fans, of which I'm one, that he had to suffer yet another 5-set loss. You might remember 2022 when Rafa Nadal came from, I think it was 2 sets and a breakdown, at least break points, and managed to win the title. So Daniil will win the Australian Open at some point, I have a feeling, but yeah, must feel pretty heavy. But he put in everything he had. I loved the way he approached this match. He came in firing straight away from the get-go. I think everyone was shocked, including Jannik Sinner. He did not see that coming, that he could be so aggressive and take the ball so early and really put pressure on a somewhat nervous Sinner. It was pretty clear that Sinner was in his first Grand Slam final. Obviously, Medvedev, he has the experience. He's played now, is it 6 finals? And he's only won 1. But obviously, when you're in a Grand Slam final, several of them have been against GOATs like Nadal, as I mentioned, and Djokovic. Of course, he's also won 1 against Djokovic. So it's never easy to win on this type of level. But yeah, he threw everything he could against Sinner. And in a very impressive performance, I think we all thought that, okay, this was a bit surprising. It's going to be a short, quick 3-set match. I had my friend Stefan, who has been doing predictions and stuff on tennisnerd.net. He actually placed a bet on Sabalenka to win, more about that soon, and Sinner to win ahead of the tournament. And he was obviously a little bit nervous, although he didn't bet his whole house, but he was looking into this with some excitement. But it looked pretty grim if you are a Sinner fan, which I'm a big fan of Sinner. The way he hits the ball, just listen to the sound. He seems like a very level-headed, nice guy as well. Great ambassador for tennis. I think tennis is in good hands with guys like Sinner and Alcaraz, to name 2 players at the front of the men's game. And there's plenty of good role models in the women's game as well, as you know. Towards the end of the second set, you could see that he started to get a little bit into the match, Sinner. He did break at 5-1. It was a pretty grim moment, but he did start to get some momentum. And I had a feeling, I was WhatsApping with another friend of mine who's also watching, and I told him, like, there's no way Sinner is losing this in 3 sets when he started playing a bit better. And when you've watched enough matches, you do get a hunch of these things. Like, it's clear that the energy of Daniil was diminishing a bit. He couldn't keep playing that type of aggressive tennis. He reverted more to his usual style, which is a little bit more defensive. And Sinner took advantage and started feeling the ball better, started being more aggressive, started going a bit more. He got some encouraging words from Vagnossi and Cahill, his camp, which he thanked a lot in the winner's interview. He also thanked his parents for not putting pressure on him. If you're a tennis parent or you know tennis parents, you know that there's usually a lot of pressure involved. I've seen a lot of bad examples of tennis parents, sadly, over the years. And I've talked about that on the podcast many, many times, that it's very common that some parents see their kid as kind of a breadwinner for the whole family, and that their tennis career is going to pay some bills or give the family some credit or whatever. It's sad, and it can lead to really bad things. So it's nice that he singled out his parents as not giving pressure, and that kind of opened him up to pursue whatever he wanted. Yes, you know, he was a talented skier as well, but is obviously a fantastically talented tennis player. So I'm very happy that Jannik won. I think it's great for tennis. And when he beat Djokovic, I said that he kind of deserves to win. In a way, Medvedev also deserves to win, of course. I mean, having lost 2 5-set finals at the Australian Open, I wish he wins the third one he's going to play. But Sinner felt like the clear favorite in many ways. But, you know, going down 2-0, I must say I'm even more impressed that he managed to come back and fight. And as we enter the 5th set, after he had come back and won the 3rd and the 4th, it felt like it was all in his hands, like his momentum. Daniil was tired, understandably. He had run so long so far for so many matches. I mean, he started with the match against Rusovori, where he had to win in 5 sets. And then, you know, the match against Zverev. And yeah, so it's an ultra physical sport. These guys are super athletes, and it was a great spectacle. I think everyone in the crowd enjoyed it. That kind of summarizes that part of the Australian Open on the men's tournament. Great tournament, many good matches. Novak was playing well, but struggled a bit on and off. Was not his tournament. He was pretty disappointed in his own performance against Sinner. But considering how well Sinner played all throughout the tournament, I think we all knew that he was one of the strongest candidates to win this one, even if Djokovic is, of course, the favorite. Some question marks in people's heads, maybe around Alcaraz. I think it's still too early to start doing that. You know, he did have a bad loss, but he's gonna come back. He did not have his coach Ferrero in Melbourne because of surgery for Ferrero, so it was clear that that may have impacted him a bit. I'm not sure. There's no shame in losing a match against a player who plays like Zverev did that day. I mean, it's it's definitely can happen to anyone. And I'm sure Alcaraz will be a force, if not one of the absolute key favorites to win the French Open. But we will see what Rafa does when he comes back. He's soon going to be back in action. But before we move on to what's happening next week, because that feels a bit weird now that we've been so engrossed in this Australian Open. It's been such a great tournament in many ways. We also have to give huge kudos to Aryna Sabalenka winning her second slam, her second Australian Open title, defense last year's title. She did struggle a bit after that title last year and lost finals, of course. We all know she has the power game to dominate pretty much any opponent. And maybe on clay it's a bit tougher, especially with Iga Swiatek, who is the clay court god there on the women's side. But on any faster surface, Sabalenka has the game to win Grand Slams, and many, many of them. But we'll see what happens. She seems to have figured out some stuff. She seems to have worked on her mental game after these losses, and we never really doubted her win here. I thought Rybakina ahead of the tournament and had Sabalenka as the outside winner, but yeah, it was clear from the beginning that she meant business, and she did not drop a single set. So even in the final, I mean, Zheng did what she could, but the power tennis of Sabalenka was just too impressive and too good this time around. So we'll see what happens now going into the clay season later on, and yeah, the rest of the season. She definitely has the game to win Wimbledon and the US Open, but we will see, you know, how she can transfer it to the clay courts. That's definitely a different part of the sport, which is one of the best things with tennis, that the different surfaces and conditions make for different challenges. And, you know, you see who can tackle them, who can be the most diverse player and change their playing style and so on. Kind of like Daniil did in this match. I love how strategical that was, that he managed to change it up, because that was his best chance of winning. And he displayed like how good he can play also as an attacking player when he wants to. And I love players who can adjust their game based on the situation. That really brings kind of the chess thing into tennis. Talking about chess, have you been watching the Wijk aan Zee kind of Wimbledon tournament of chess? If you have, let me know in the comments. I've been enjoying that one a lot. Commentary, amazing. So if you're a chess fan as well as a tennis fan, let me know in the comments. It's been a great event with a lot of fighting games there as well. So does tennis stop? No, tennis never stops. If you've read tennisnerd.net, follow the website, you know that we usually have something called This Week in Tennis there, and I want to make like a video version of that now from this year. So let's have a look at what's happening next week. I know we're stuck in the Australian Open emotions, a lot of emotions, but tennis goes on as it always does. And you players out there, you know how it is. Like, you're always traveling and going to the next tournament, next city, and yeah, it's a crazy lifestyle in many ways. If we start with the ATP Tour, we have an ATP 250 next week, starting tomorrow. I'm talking to you here on Sunday in CET, Central European Time. Open de Sud de France in Montpellier. ATP 250 tournament. There's some interesting names in this tournament. Holger Rune, we'll see how he can take his Australian Open, which was probably a little bit of a disappointment. Restart his 2024 season, maybe. We have Auger Aliassime. I'm also curious about how he plays. I mean, his form has not been the most promising. Bublik, who has won this tournament before, and Andy Murray. Can he come back from his first round loss at the Australian Open when it's indoors? And then we have Monfils as well. So look at the first round. One match I'm curious about is also Shapovalov. How, you know, he's coming back to the tour after some injuries. Has started with only losses. I don't think he's won a set so far. Hugo Gaston, home player who's quite good at rallying the crowd, and yeah, he's not known to be the most sportsmanlike guy. I don't know how true that is. but you can search YouTube and you will find some videos for sure, and you might have seen him as well live or in stream. But yeah, it's going to be a tough opponent for Chapo. That's my feeling. I'm also curious to see Artur Cazot. He really had a great Australian Open. Can he keep this up? Exciting young player. There's a lot of strong French players. Another one I want to mention is Harold Mayot, who plays Luca Pouille. And Luca Pouille, as you know, had years of issues with the drugs and depression and stuff like that. Back in business, back playing, and yeah, still can play very entertaining tennis if his body holds up. So we'll see. This is an interesting match of generations there. And we also have Monfils. I will predict Bublik to win this tournament. I just feel like he loves those fast indoor courts, big serve, loves to play a bit of fun tennis, seems to enjoy it there. Gasquet is also playing. He can also be a dangerous player in these types of tournaments, will probably go far as he usually does. So that's going to be one kind of palate cleanser after the Australian Open that I will keep my eyes on. WTA, they have two tournaments, one WTA 250 in Thailand Open and one in Linz in Austria, which is WTA 500. Start with the Thailand Open. Semi-strong field. Magdalinette is the number one seed here. A lot of Chinese players, several players called Wang, for example, pretty common name there, so makes sense. Badosa is playing a wild card. My favorite to win the event, based on how she played at the Australian Open. She played really good tennis there, and we know when she's feeling it, she can really play some excellent tennis, and that's why I would predict her to win. Fruhvirtova sisters, always fun to follow. They're really strong talents. And then we have the slightly stronger tournament, Upper Austria Ladies in Linz. There we have Ostapenko playing, which is a wild card, probably very late entry. And yeah, she is my favorite to win this tournament. Why? Because she played amazingly at the Australian Open, lost to my surprise against Azarenka. It was a pretty bad matchup for her, but she did win the tournament before the Australian Open. And I think when Ostapenko is feeling it, playing well, she is very, very dangerous. But this draw is much tougher, of course. So she's going to have some heavy competition. Paulini is another player I am keen to watch. She did have a really good Australian Open. Plays Bolter in the first round. Very even-sided match there. But we also have some interesting other players. Kerber, wildcard. Diana Jastremska of Australian Open fame, I was going to say. But yeah, obviously you know about her before maybe. But that tournament was great for her, semifinals. And Anna Blinkova, who also had a good run to the quarterfinals. So some good names. The tennis never stops, as I said. And the WTA 500 just the week after the Grand Slam is pretty good for the tennis fans. And I'm sure we will see some good tennis there. So that's what's going on. I mean, obviously there's challengers and there's futures and there's whatnot. I'm happy to be watching some more tennis, and I will try to do like a weekly video where I go through what's happening and then we summarize and then we keep that as a weekly thing. Hopefully you like it. I will also talk about rackets, strings and stuff if things pop into to play. If you see something, you can always message on Instagram or on tennisnerd.net. So congrats to Sabalenka and Sinner for winning. Congrats to Stefan for predicting both winners ahead of the tournament. Hope you got a nice chunk of money for that. And I will see you in the next one. Have a nice day, and don't forget to play some tennis.